There's a moment most people never talk about. It happens right after you wake up, before your mind even remembers your own name. For half a second, everything is quiet, and then it comes back. The weight. Not sadness exactly, something duller than that. The awareness that you have to be a person again today. You get up anyway. You brush your teeth. You check your phone. You answer the message that's been sitting there since last night. The one that says, "Hey, you good?" And you type back, "Yeah, just tired," because that's easier than trying to explain the thing you don't have words for yet. Here's the sentence you've probably thought but never said out loud. "I'm not depressed. I'm not in crisis. I just don't feel anything anymore." And if that sentence just made something in your chest tighten, stay with me for the next few minutes. Because what you're describing isn't a mood, it's a mechanism. And once you understand the mechanism, you stop fighting yourself for something that was never your fault. Let's start with what everyone around you assumes is happening, because that gap is part of what makes this so isolating. From the outside, you look fine. You go to work. You laugh at the right moments. You show up to dinner. People see someone who has a roof, a job, people who love them, and they quietly conclude you should be grateful. So why aren't you happy? That question is the loneliest one you'll ever be asked, because you don't have an answer that makes sense to anyone who hasn't lived inside your head. You're not thinking about ending things. You'd never act on anything like that. But you've noticed the songs you used to play on repeat now just play. The meal you used to look forward to all day tastes like something you're chewing out of obligation. You can be surrounded by the people who matter most to you and still feel like you're watching the room through glass. That's not a character flaw. That's not laziness. That's not ingratitude. That is your nervous system doing something specific, something measurable, something with a name. Researchers call it anhedonia. And here's what makes it different from sadness. Sadness is a feeling. This is the absence of the machinery that produces feeling in the first place. Brain imaging on people in this state shows reduced activity in the brain's reward circuitry, specifically in the process neuroscientists call reward prediction. The internal whisper that normally says, "This is gonna feel good," go toward it. When that whisper goes quiet, motivation doesn't just decrease, it has nothing to attach to. You're not choosing to not want things. The part of your brain responsible for wanting has gone dark. But that's only half the picture, because a quiet reward system doesn't explain why you're still functioning at all. That's the second piece, and it's the one that changes how you see yourself completely. It's called functional freeze. It's what happens when a nervous system has absorbed more prolonged stress, more disappointment, more unprocessed weight than it has resources to metabolize. And instead of collapsing outright, it finds a middle setting. You keep moving. You keep performing the tasks of a normal life. But internally, the lights are off. You are technically present and functionally absent at the same time. Think about what your body actually did to get you here. It didn't fail you. It made a calculation. It looked at everything you were carrying, the deadlines, the grief you never fully sat with, the relationship that quietly drained you, the years of just pushing through. And it decided that fully feeling all of it would cost more than you had left to spend. So it did the only thing a system like that can do under that kind of load. It turned the volume down, not just on the pain, on everything. Because your nervous system doesn't have a dial for mute the bad stuff only. It has one dial, and when it turns, joy gets quiet at the exact same time as the ache does. That's the cruelest mechanic of the whole thing. You wanted relief from the overwhelm, and your body gave you relief. But the relief came wrapped in numbness, so the good got muted along with the bad. Which means the version of you reading this right now isn't broken. You're not defective. You are a system that has been running on emergency reserves for so long that even the emergency reserves are running low. You didn't stop wanting to live. You got exhausted from the sheer labor of staying upright inside a life that never let up. Now here's where most people get stuck, and I want to name it directly because it's the trap that keeps this state alive far longer than it needs to last. You start waiting to feel like calling your friend back before you call, waiting to feel motivated before you get out of bed on time, waiting to feel like yourself again before you try to do anything that used to matter to you. And you wait, and you wait, and the feeling never shows up first, because that's not how this works. Motivation isn't the ignition. it's the exhaust. It comes out the other side of movement, not before it. You cannot think or wait your way back into feeling. You have to move first, in small enough doses that your nervous system doesn't interpret it as another threat. So let's talk about what actually moves the needle, because none of this requires reinventing your life overnight. That would be its own kind of threat to a nervous system already running on empty. It starts absurdly small, a walk with no destination. 10 minutes outside where your only job is to let your eyes track something moving, a bird, traffic, clouds, anything that isn't a screen. Movement like this has a documented effect on the same neurochemical pathways involved in pleasure and reward, which means you're not doing it to feel better in some abstract way. You're doing it because it's one of the few direct levers you have on the exact system that went quiet. Then, one task, not a goal, not a 5-year plan. One physical, completable thing. Wash the one dish in the sink, make the bed, open the window. It sounds too small to matter, and that's exactly why it works. Your nervous system doesn't speak in ambition, it speaks in proof. Every small task you complete is evidence, delivered directly to the part of your brain that decides whether the world is safe enough to re-engage with, that you still have some control over your environment. And underneath both of those, the piece that actually rebuilds the foundation. Talk to someone trained to sit with this kind of state, not to fix you in one session, but to be a consistent, steady presence your body can slowly learn to trust again. Healing here isn't about forcing yourself back online through sheer will. It's about repetition. Safe experience after safe experience, until your nervous system quietly updates its own risk assessment and decides it's allowed to come back up to full volume. A good therapist isn't rushing you. They're building the conditions your body needs to stop bracing. I want to say this next part without any softening, because you've earned a direct sentence after sitting through all of this. The fact that you're still here, still listening, still trying to understand what's happening inside you, means some part of you is still looking for a way back. The numbness isn't the real you. It's not permanent. It's not a verdict on who you are. The things you used to love haven't lost their ability to move you. The part of your brain responsible for receiving that feeling has just temporarily dimmed the lights, and dimmed is not the same as gone. You are not broken, and you are not done. You are someone who has been under sustained pressure for longer than anyone around you fully understood, and your body did exactly what it was built to do to keep you upright through it. The proof that it worked is that you're here right now. So the question isn't how to fix your whole life today. It's smaller than that, and it's the only question that actually matters. What is the one small thing you can do today, not because you feel like it, but because the part of you that's still here deserves to be shown up for? If any of this described a version of yourself you haven't said out loud to anyone yet, you don't have to carry it by yourself. Reach out to a mental health professional or to one person you trust enough to tell the truth to. That single conversation is often the first small movement that gets everything else moving again.
Like to learn more about human psychology? Like, comment, and share this video. Subscribe my channel now. Thank you for watching.